Hello friends. This talk is about ways that Quaker roles can become simpler to do and simpler to fill. When people have talked with me about difficulties with filling Quaker roles, there seem to be three main issues. Sometimes there's one particular role that you can't fill. We can't find a clerk, or we can't find a treasurer or trustees or whatever. Sometimes it's the whole thing. We've not enough people to fill all these roles. We have to do something different. Sometimes it's the amount of work that each one is expected to do that's the problem. And sometimes it's all three. And this isn't surprising when we remember all the factors that we considered in the fundamentals topic in this series. We only have 2/3 of the number of members and attenders that we had 25 years ago. So there's less people available. And they often have busier lives and more are older. And some of the work has grown as our world is more regulated. Fortunately, as I explained in the fundamentals topic, there are lots of possibilities and a lot more permission to vary things than some Quakers think. Let's start with that role that you just can't fill. Well, one way to make things easier is to share that role between more than one person. With co-clerks, we can use different people's skills and it's less lonely. You could have a clerk and assistant clerk or two co-clerks. At some area meetings, have 4 co-clerks and they work as a team. Or you could divide up some roles more formally. For example, for a treasurer, you could separate the bookkeeping aspect, the transactions, from the looking at the overall financial position and making good use of our money. You might find someone who can do the bookkeeping as their bit, but doesn't want to handle the decisions. Well, someone else does, but doesn't want to keep the books. Another good example is where you might have a correspondence clerk who deals with all the mail and puts together the weekly notices, but doesn't become the clerk at the table for business meetings. Often, things have kept being added to a role. Perhaps a really helpful person kept taking on more tasks. It can help to go through the list of tasks for a role and take out everything that can be done by someone else. So, does the clerk really have to look after the website? Does the area meeting clerk really have to organise the programme of learning sessions or keep the contacts list? Things like that. Try and strip the list back to the essentials and see who else can do the other tasks. Sometimes it's actually simpler to combine the roles. Quite a few small meetings work well with 3 people holding most functions between them as a team. And having a supporter or assistant can help, someone to call upon when something needs doing. One area meeting clerk told me what a blessing it is to have someone she can ring to help her when she gets stuck with her IT. Some meetings have a buddy system where you can ring up 1 or 2 people who've been there before and who understand how things are done. They might be in your own meeting or in the area meeting or maybe another one. A different perspective and experience can be really helpful. Now, a very important discovery that I've made is the role of cake. I surveyed area meeting treasurers asking them what tips they had, and several of them said, we get together as a group of treasurers every 6 months over cake and coffee, and we just talk through issues that people have got in quite an informal way. So doing that with people from other meetings can be a very good informal way of gaining support. And you get cake. Quite a few area meetings are beginning to have a paid administrator. One near me is doing it on about 3 hours a week, so it's not a big financial commitment. They cover things like membership matters, contact lists, gift aid, or insurance, things that otherwise would land on the shoulders of the clerk or the treasurer or the clerk to trustees. One area meeting has done this by adding some hours to a warden's role. There's also scope for paid support for treasurers and on property matters, which we'll cover in the topic about simpler ways for trustees and treasurers. And a bit of flexibility helps. One potential area meeting clerk said to me, there must be things that we could do so I could take on this role and make it more doable. Do roles always have to be for 3 years? Perhaps if they were offered for 1 year with the potential to extend, then people might be more prepared to take it on. And then she said, it would make a real difference to me if I didn't have to be the clerk at the table every meeting, if I knew that I could have a gap or step back. Now that's easier if you have co-clerks. Of course, if you were holding fewer area meetings, then that's less of a time commitment for the clerk. Some area meetings hold their business meetings 4 times a year, and one has recently moved to 3 times a year. Holding committees or business meetings online can cut out a great load of travelling time and open up opportunities to include people who just don't have the space in their lives for whole evenings or whole days. So that can ease the number of people you have available. So there are lots of possibilities for reducing the work, for sharing the load and being more flexible. Overall, people are much more likely to say yes to taking on a role and keep on with it and enjoy it when it feels more doable. Now let's look at when your problem is so many roles, so few people. It can really help to get all the lists out of all the roles and take a good look at it together. Ask things like, do we need so many of a particular role? For example, there's an area meeting that was struggling to fill all of its 16 trustees. Now, plenty of area meetings have 8, and some have 6. Do we need to have quite as many elders, etc.? Do we need to have 2 representatives to this body? Could we make do with 1? We may have to reduce or lay down some roles altogether and focus on things that are most important. Could we share some role holders with another area meeting? For example, we have 70 area meetings across Britain, and they all need to have a registering officer, and most of them have an assistant registering officer. So that's about 140 people learning how the process works. Well, in 2018, in Britain Yearly Meeting, we had 27 marriages. Do we need 140 people preparing for 27 marriages? Could we share between areas? Maybe having a registering officer from one area meeting and an assistant registering officer from another. They could both be appointed by both area meetings. It's allowed. For safeguarding, could some aspects be shared across 2 area meetings? Perhaps several area meetings could pay someone to help them all with safeguarding. Just talking to people in other area meetings can be enlightening. Often one meeting has some particular way of doing things or some roles that are a product of a special circumstance in the past or of one person's views. Discovering that other meetings do things differently can be really liberating. About 1/3 of local meetings have some form of corporate or collective pastoral care or eldership system, rather than only named roles. That may be worth considering. Some meetings are reflecting on quite how much Quaker time and energy is taken up with having a meeting house. There's a premises committee, a warden's manager, a support group. The treasurer has much less to do without a meeting house. Same for trustees and for clerks. 30% of local meetings in Britain don't have a meeting house to look after, and they are able to travel lightly as a result. On a bigger scale, ultimately some area meetings are now concluding that they just can't manage to continue in their current size and are seeking to merge part or all of their structures. And that's a later topic in this series. I want to finish up with a wholly different take on roles and tasks. A lot of meetings fill their roles in a very traditional manner. They go, here is the role, here is the stack of tasks that we expect this role to do, and here is another stack of tasks for another role, and another stack of tasks for another. And then they try and find the person who can do all the tasks in that stack. And that can be really hard. It's rather like a jigsaw puzzle where we're trying to find a person that fits the particular shape of the space in that particular puzzle. Instead, what some meetings have been doing is going, let's take all the tasks out of their stacks and lay them out on the table. Let's see who we've got, who's interested in doing what, or could be good at it. Can we match up the tasks with the people more flexibly? That can work better than all these 10 tasks have to be done by this non-existent person. Here's a real-life example from a meeting in southeast of England. They had no friend prepared to serve as a local meeting clerk, nor any friend prepared to clerk or be even nominated for a premises committee. They have 8 active people. Some are members, some are tenders. Well, what they did was they listed out the essential tasks and responsibilities around premises and around clerking, and they discussed them as a group. They produced a list of premises tasks and clerking tasks, with different people taking some of them. So now one person deals with housekeeping and kitchen supplies, the contents of the fridge, electrical testing and gardening matters. Someone else deals with the notice boards inside and out. Someone takes responsibility for health and safety and risk assessments. One person handles the fire alarm testing and the equipment maintenance, and another takes the central heating and the plumbing issues. You see how they've gone, I could do that bit. And for the clerk's responsibilities, they now have a rota of 6 people who clerk their bi-monthly business meetings. And 1 of 2 people assists the clerk at the table, which gives continuity and confidence. The clerks for those 2 months cover correspondence, agendas, and liaising with the area meeting clerk. Meanwhile, someone is gathering information for the notices each week. Someone else prepares reports asked for by the area meeting. One manages the website, and another is the safeguarding verifier. So nobody is doing the whole thing. They found a way that matches the people they have, and they're all involved. I hope this quick trot through the many ways you can do roles differently will be helpful for you. In summary, share out the work, be prepared to be flexible, look for ways to support people with volunteers or paid people, be prepared to stop doing some things or change how they're done or the structures. Consider the Quaker time that is spent on your meeting house, and you might try sharing out the tasks rather than filling fixed roles.